governed by the open meetings law. There's a copy of it on the table in the back of the room. We have no public comments today, Nicole?
No.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Scott?
Good morning.
Morning.
Folks, I gave you an operations report this last Tuesday, so we're going to talk about our Operation Code Repeal initiative. We just, go to the next slide, please. We just took these pictures, Sal and the staff took these pictures on Monday. This is Underwood Tower. If you go to the next one. Pine. As you can see, we did parking lots to a large majority of our towers. We did some landscaping as well. I want to thank Ryan and his staff for getting that done. Go to the next one. This is Jackson Tower. Next one, please. Park North and Park South Tower. Thanks to Lee Terry on that. This is Crown Tower. As I put in the operations report, we're going to put a gazebo at Crown Tower. Go to the next one. This is Highland. Next one. This is Evans Tower. We're going to probably put some additional trees in front of the building at Evans. And this is Chambers Court. As you can see, that's probably our signature property. Go to Jackson Tower, if you don't mind. Go back. Yeah, right here. You folks can see the sign at Jackson Tower where we have an RFP out to change all of our signs to make sure that they look similar to the sign in Jackson. Really, the takeaway from why we're doing this in so many respects, we've had a focus on the exterior of our properties for the last probably year and a half. We understand that throughout our tower properties, we have to begin now to focus on the interior of our properties. Ryan and I are in discussions and trying to figure out how we pay for that. But as you can see, and if anybody, I know a lot of our board members have lived in different cities and have been exposed to public housing. I think as it pertains to our towers, this stuff doesn't really look like public housing. And I know that here in Omaha, we are held to a different and higher standard, but I like the exterior of our properties, a large majority. I'm not talking about our scattered site units, and everybody has heard about the challenges there, but I think our residents, after we've had our resident council meetings, which we've been involved in, what we ask at the staff level is to trust that we're going to do the interior of our properties, and that means new kitchens and new baths at some point in time. So the takeaway with this presentation is we get the challenges and we understand what's needed on the interior of our properties. But as evidenced by these slides, I think we've done a pretty good job in the exterior of our property, and we're going to continue to do that. And that incorporates and involves a lot of our staff at the maintenance level. And we commend them and the re-op workers for picking up trash every day. We have a lot of challenges here, absolutely. But I think we're going to be okay going forward. So we just need you to trust us and understand that we're doing our best to make the living environment and the quality of life of our residents at our towers as good as we can under the circumstances of within budget. So, somebody have any questions? Comments?
Chair. Cliff, from my understanding, the incident that took the life of the gentleman over at Spencer Apartments, that really had nothing to do with our apartments or anybody over there.
Chris?
No, it did not. It did not.
And it was just a random, I'm not even sure if he was the intended target or if if anybody was there.
I don't know if he was the intended target or not, but it didn't have anything to do with any of our residents there as far as the investigation has shown so far.
Okay.
He's not tied to anybody there as far as we know at this point.
We just on the safety and security front, we still have to find the money to address this issue. It's not going away. At some point in time, we're probably going to have to budget from operations over the next year, monies for safety and security. And, we have to make that commitment at the board level, certainly at the staff level on that. City is probably not going to help us on this, in this area. At this point in time, I can't comment on that. But this housing authority has challenges, clearly. But you'll see in where we were 3 years ago, and the incremental progress that we're making today. I think it's everybody in the room should be commended. We got challenges, folks. There's no question. We got it. And we're always going to have every other housing authority in America. But I think we're on the right track, and we just have to maintain that. George wanted to say something on this issue as well, putting him on the spot. Seeing that he's one of the longest tenured.
No. When Cliff was talking about this presentation, I think one of the things we were talking about was, the image of OHA as an agency, how it's going to take time to overcome some of the historical barriers that the agency has faced. And we've had governance issues, we've had staff issues, resident issues, safety and security issues. And, I think to become a fully functioning housing authority, to get to where it needs to get as a leader of this community, supporting the community is going to be important. But one of the things we were talking about, that's probably going to take a little time to get there, just to overcome some of those historical baggages that we've had before the community can trust that the housing authority is doing what it needs to do, so people can start pouring money and resources that are going to be required, because just the federal funding alone is not going to do it. It's going to take other funding, other sources, and other partnerships to get us where we need to get, and that's going to take a little bit of time and a little bit of work to create that trust. At the end of the day, I think Lynn understands that what he does is a matter of trust. People have to trust that you do what you say, you're going to do what you say, and follow through and be a positive agency for the community. So that's what we were talking about when we were talking about the presentation.
Well, and then Michael and I are going to start on the budget, so we've got to find some money in the budgets for safety and soundness, but we got to also look at starting to build the brand of who we are, and by doing, even changing the name does build a brand. I mean, there's a lot of things that you create a product and the brand, and just staying consistent with all that. So now we need to get back to doing what we should have been doing for the last 3 years, trying to just get our act together.
Cliff and I had a conversation briefly yesterday, and so that we started the beginning of this year with a strategic planning session. Many of the things that came out of that session are still, obviously are very accurate. The things we haven't, we still need to work to put together a plan to achieve. It's been nice to have, what I said was kind of a quiet 6 months. It's been kind of nice to have, to be in an agency where we're going along and everything's at least relatively working, but now we need to kind of step back and take that strategic planning initiative, be aggressive about community engagement, be aggressive about our planning, be aggressive about our marketing. I need staff's help, but to put together, at least in place by the end of the year, it's what I'd like to see, is to have us have a plan in place by the end of the year that by January 1st is something we can actually start acting on. And I know that's aggressive between now and the end of the year, but we have the ideas and the concepts in place. Staff, I know, has been working. So between community engagement, strategic planning, and staff, I think staff improvement, we can put those plans in place by the end of the year, so we have 2015 that has very specific and measurable goals.
And that's going to involve resources, and at this point in time, we're going to have to expend the resources at the board level, and certainly at the staff level. And that entails staff development, training, and really improving our brand. I'm happy with where we are at this point in time. This is kind of what we anticipated here 40 months ago. I think that maintenance level, and certainly at the staff level, just has to escalate. And I think that going forward, this agency is going to begin to realize more resources from outside entities. And you're going to see that over the next roughly 6 to 8 months. That's all I have for you.
Anything else, Mr. Scott? Okay. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. We've got, anything on the consent agenda, any questions, anyone wants to pull off? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion approved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further questions or discussion? If not, roll call.
Commissioner Lambert?
Yes.
Commissioner Berman?
Yes.
Commissioner Ray?
Yes.
Commissioner Arano?
Yes.
Commissioner Barner?
Yes.
Commissioner Watson?
Yes.
Mayor Dan?
Yes. Okay, thank you for that. Let's move on to our report discussion items. We've got budget and finance. Michael, you're Scott going to do this, right?
No, Michael's doing this.
Morning.
Morning.
We had our finance committee meeting on Tuesday, going through the financials for the month of August. So I'll just give you a high-level recap of that. On the public housing side, for the month, we had revenues of $1,000,001 against a budget of $1,000,001. On the expense side, $960,000 versus $1,060,000 for the budget. On transfers in, we had $583,000 that came in from HUD, which is a 20% cash bond that allocated to us for the year. So we want to get those dollars, which shows up on that month, which led us to have a net income for the month of $676,000. So year to date, we're doing good on the public housing side. On the Section 8 operating side, we have revenues of roughly $2.4 million against a budget of $2.4 million. So we're funded at those levels. On the expense side, we had $2.489 million against a budget of $2.410 for a net loss of $113,000 for the month. On the Section 8 admin side, we had revenues of $228,000 against a budget of $177,000 and expenses of $203,000 versus a budget of $189,000 for net income on the Section 8 admin of $25,000. On the COCC central office, had revenues of $315,000 against a budget of $326,000, expenses of $347,000 against a budget of $297,000 for a net loss for the month of $33,000 roughly. Insurance expenses was high for the month, high year to date, which is a factor of expenses being either put to the P&L or insurance expenses being put up on the balance sheet as prepaid item that we're working through with the auditors. So going forward for the next year, we'll be able to expense those insurance expenses on a ratable basis versus some being expensed, some being put in the prepaid. So
We finally figured out what our error was, so we got that corrected.
On the high side, we had revenues of $98,000 versus a budget of $118,000, expenses of $120,000 against a budget of $152,000 roughly, for a net income of $23,000 against a budget of $4,000.
Could you, on this one, I wasn't following the numbers. I'm not sure what I was doing. What are the net interprogram transfers? And are those inclusive in the revenues?
That's the public housing subsidy money that goes into public housing and gets transferred into each of the tax credit properties.
Okay. Is it in the revenue line?
It's in the revenue line on the public housing. And then if you go down below, if you look at the transfers out, so it comes into public housing as a revenue, and then down below it goes out as a transfer out. On public housing, then it comes in here as a net transfer in to the Ohio programs.
So it's not doubled up. It's not up in the revenue on the HIO sheet.
Yes.
It's not in the revenue up on top.
Okay.
It's reflected down below as a
In the
transfer.
public housing.
Some of our higher properties are public housing.
Right.
So it doesn't, money doesn't come into this account per se. It comes only in the public housing account and it's transferred to this account.
Yeah, it was really just following the flow of the revenues less the expenses. It did not equal the net income unless I was doing something here.
Because you take the revenues minus the expenses and then the in or out on the transfers to come to your net income.
Okay. I'll just run through it with you after the meeting.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and then on the agency-wide balance sheet, high level, the balance sheet now reflects the balance for the current period is the month of August. The next column over that beginning balance is the previous month. So now we're just looking at a month over month versus year over year. So high level, total cash is up from the prior month by $587,000, which again is the $583,000 of that 20% cap fund money from HUD. Net accounts receivable on the tenant is roughly flat, which means we're holding the line there on collectability. On the next page on total fixed assets, we're up $129,000 roughly. $224,000 of that is construction project on the types of work that you're seeing in the first field, the parking lot, etc. So that's work in progress is up $224,000, and then accumulated depreciation on the higher properties of roughly $96,000 comes to a net increase to fixed assets of $149,000.
I'm not sure the balance sheet's in the packet.
Oh, it's on the packet? Okay.
Oh, wait, finance is that.
The balance sheet comes in the finance packet.
But not in here. Okay. So just real quick, the balance sheet is looking very strong. We're up in cash, we're down in payables,
All right.
and everything else is
Our net worth increased.
Earnings out of it, it's like that. Okay.
That's how it's not.
That was a discussion we decided that several months ago when we had financials and an excessive amount of financial information to push the balance sheet into the finance packet for the finance committee to evaluate and keep the high level stuff into our board packet. So if you ever have a question about the board information, you want to see the balance sheet, obviously we have it. But remind Michael that it's not in the board packet.
Where do you, I think you should show the board the cash position and the changes in the cash position. And do you show that anywhere other than the balance sheet?
No, we don't. We have a balance sheet, we have an income statement, we don't have a cash flow statement. Never have historically.
No, I know.
So-
Cliff, you should bring like a bank statement, something.
At the finance committee meeting, he always brings a current listing of every account at First National Bank, what the balances are. And they're roughly around 8 million right now.
And you can give that to the board if you want to.
Or you could just document it in the finance committee meetings, what the balances were
Sure.
as a balance sheet.
Okay.
That's acceptable to the.
But even cash a year ago was about the same as it maintaining cash.
So I think the idea there, Nicole, is to document the cash positions on a monthly basis for our finance.
Oh, you don't have to, you don't have to get into it.
You literally said we aim to please, all right?
That's it.
Yeah. I'll have it this morning. I'll print out the copy.
I think one copy's fine. We're good.
Yeah, we're good.
All right.
Okay.
So that's the monthly financials. The audit report is due from the auditors by September 30th, so they will file the audit report. We'll get a copy of that, which will be provided to the board. And then they'll also file the audited financial FDS report to HUD by that same time.
Did the auditors present to the finance committee?
No, they did not. They're still wrapping up their work.
They haven't
and that
filed it
will-
for you.
They'll generate that audit report by September 30th.
And a copy will be sent to,
A copy will be sent to us, a copy will be provided to the board.
Thank you.
as well. And then we will probably have the audit report to the board in November.
That they're filing in September?
Right, for presentation to the board.
we will get a copy of it when they send it. The copy they send it's on September 30th to file with HUD will be sent, a copy will be sent to the board,
Absolutely.
correct?
At that time?
At that
Yes.
Okay. Last year, we just had there was some timing differences as to when the board would actually get, it was either last year or the year before, when the board would get the report. The report was going in before the board ever saw the report. And I think if the report's going in to anyone, the board should see it simultaneously, concurrent with that. But that will work at the same time.
That was our conversation in finance, when that
Right.
report's submitted to HUD, a copy will be sent to OHA, and then will be forwarded to the board. for review. But it looks like we have a pretty good audit this year.
Good.
Very good.
I think the board will be pleased. All right, next item, asset management. Susan and Terrence.
Good morning,
Good morning.
Madam Chair. Good morning, Board. You have before you our report. I would like to start off that we've implemented on-site rent collection at the towers. September 1st was our due date, so we have that in place, and nothing major. It's a smooth transition, and I think a lot of the managers who had some apprehension are pretty comfortable. We have yet to have the data yet. This is our first month, so we'll start comparing how, as far as the percentage is concerned, versus collecting at the central office as opposed to the sites. But at minimum, it has been very convenient for our residents, so I like to report that.
And we're also at Southside.
And it's up.
At Southside.
And I'd like to report that the residents are very pleased with that.
Good.
Save
That's
us a
excellent.
stamp.
Well, speaking of stamps, what's interesting is we have to send a flyer to some residents because they still want to put a stamp.
Yeah.
So we've had some stamps in
I
some of the
posted that.
payments.
They didn't have to do that. They still do it.
So you're stamping it and then bringing it downstairs?
Yeah.
They bring it down and put it in the.
I'm sure, yes, USPS is very happy about it.
So we just sent the reminder, save your stamps for outgoing, something. So you have our report before you. We've had 10 properties that finished the month at 100% and 8 properties at 98% or better. Also, we had a great month in renting units versus vacating units, so we're happy to report that as well.
It doesn't take a rocket science to look down through and see where your top 2 items are there and right at the top of the page.
Yes. Yes. You know, the bigger the property, we kind of, they are basically our support, as they go, we go. But we have staff in place at Southside, so you should see an improvement next month, knock on wood.
That's a new site manager?
Yes. And foreman.
Okay. I think just as a point, at our next operations committee meeting, which we should have next month, can you and Susan give us just a rundown, and maybe George, on our tenant suitability and how that seems to be going?
Yes.
And then probably have a follow-up conversation from our last meeting on receivables and how we're managing that.
Absolutely.
Maybe go for me on that, Nicole. Thank you. Okay, any other questions for Terrence and Susan on asset management?
Madam Chair, just one, and I don't know if it's for you guys or maybe for Sal, I don't know, and if it's Sal's report, we'll do it when we get to it, but I was just wondering how we're doing with our health facilities that we put in at the various high rises. I just was kind of wondering if we're starting to see clients come through now that we've got a person on board that is acting as the director of that, so to speak.
Yeah, physician.
Yeah, physician.
We actually met with Charles Group yesterday, and they plan on getting some flyers out to all of our properties. They had I talked to the senior staff about they want to pay for postage to get out to so they're really trying to get back out, trying to get the information out to our residents. We really haven't got to where it's a working process.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
that's what I was talking to them about yesterday. They come and nobody knows they're there. So this is the 3rd time that I've told them, you need some flyers to let people know who we're coming.
Charles Drew?
Whoever, Methodist does the same thing. We don't know they're coming. And so They promised that they would get the flyers out, because if you sit there, nobody knows you're there, so they're just wasting time, you know. So I told them they need to get some flyers, let us know when they're coming, and then we can pass the flyers out and people will come down. But if don't nobody know they're coming, you can't come down.
Sure.
So that's what's been going on too.
The Commissioner Naylor is talking about the youth partnership that we have with Methodist College. The nursing students actually come in there to do some work experience and those kind of things. I think we have put the flyers out way ahead of time, and I think you're right, we need to wait to a day or 2 days before to put them out. We get that.
So part of, Madam Chair, if I do it again, part of that is Charles Drew's responsibility too. I just wanted to know where we are with that, because I have, there's some consulting work going on with them, and we need to know if they're not getting the word out, they need to do a better job of getting the word out. I just wanted to know where we are, because I think Charles Drew the Housing Authority obviously has a role to play, but I think Charles Drew has the obligation to make sure that people, as Commissioner Winford said, they have an obligation to let people know that they're there and what their services are.
Yeah, and the key thing is just the comfort level with our residents in Charles Drew.
Okay.
It's hard on our part because Bryce, who's our elderly, the service coordinator, can be at every tower. And we really encourage our staff and the agency to sit at the table, and that actually allows our residents to really come and open up to them. So what we're doing right now, we're going each visit at a time where we actually go with them. We actually started at Underwood. We met with them, so they need some flyers, going out, talk about the program. Instead of us going out and promote the program for them, we want them to walk with us and promote the program for themselves.
Exactly.
So we changing that. So you want me to send some new flyers out, and they also want to be doing that mail also to our section.
And the other thing, Madam Chair, if I can one more time, the other thing is that, once they get out there, they need to be more aggressive about getting that information to them. Plus, there's going to be, my understanding is that they're going to have a demo van available fairly soon. And in a meeting with them, one of the suggestions that I gave them was making sure that demo van makes it periodically to our towers at least, so that those will be available. So I know that's coming, but we need to kind of help them step up to be more aggressive about letting our residents know that they're there and what their services are.
You may get a complaint, well, not a complaint, but the coordinator that we met with, we really got hard on them as far as they need to be doing the promotion for that program, because we can't go out there and tell everything about the program. They have to be with us. So he decided, he talked to the CEO, so they decided to have a staff designated who actually going to be going out to do it. And we talked about how we export them in the past, where we do all the flies and that kind of stuff. I told them we really changing it where you got to bring your staff with our staff to actually go out and knock on doors. So,
that's a critical thing, and with it being there and the residents having access to it, they need to know it's there, and they need to be safe and comfortable.
Absolutely.
With the process, they've got to do a better job.
I agree.
Okay. Thank you, Madam.
Any other questions or comments on asset management? If not, we'll move forward to housing choice. Okay. Good morning, Joan.
Good morning. Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
You have my monthly report. I would be glad to answer any questions that you may have. Just wanted to update you on the waiting list. We are continuing to add families to our waiting list. We have a little over 200 families added now. We did work Saturday in September. We'll be working a Saturday in October and also in November, adding those families. And also 3 days out of the week, we're adding families to the waiting list also. So we'll be continuing to do that.
Any comments or questions for Joan? Okay, thank you. We'll move on to Kaya. We did not meet last month. We will be meeting this month. I'll let Ryan update you on Chandler as part of his report. So we'll move on to that, capital development construction. Morning, Ryan.
Good morning, Commissioners. Before you got my report, so we've got basically RAD, the PCA. HUD does have that as far as for review, and we are still working out the numbers to try to balance improvements that we'll do up front and then things that will happen over the term of the 20 years with the loan to make sure that, because you have to put a dollar amount into a replacement account, and if you have too many items in 1 year, it asks for almost $1,000 a unit. Well, unfortunately, the budget doesn't support putting $1,000 per unit in per year. So it's been a real balance act trying to get the numbers to pan out and useful life of everything to try to make sure that we can do things up front, but then throughout the course of the period, the 20-year loan, that we can actually, have a manageable reserve, like $300 a unit per unit. So we've got AMP 16 there. 17 is a little bit more challenging for a couple of reasons. For some reason, 17's rents are a lot lower than 16's. So luckily, we were able to bundle the two together at least to help offset 17, because there's almost $100 difference between bedroom sizes between 16 and 17, which makes it very tough from a loan perspective and trying to make debt service coverage ratios for banks. So we're getting close. We just got to tweak 17 a little bit and get it there. I think we'll be able to take it to the bank and hopefully keep moving forward. So, but we'll keep working on that. That hopefully in a month we'll have we'll be ready to take it to hopefully the bank and move forward on that and have a closing. So UFIS parking lots, we're moving along there. Like I said, we only have one more parking lot in West Benson. That it started today, actually. They're setting up over there. So that'll hopefully be about 30 or 45 days, hopefully relatively quick, as long as the weather stays good for us. GPNA, we did get that. We are still reviewing that. We just got it Friday. And I think it'll probably take us a couple of months to bring it back to you guys, because we've got to go over it. And I also kind of want to look back at it, even though it's 10 years old, I want to look and see 2004 versus now and kind of see what the two reports say, so I kind of can understand a little bit about historically what they saw, and knowing that we probably haven't done a lot of those things, to be honest, and kind of what this report says, so I can kind of figure out where we're at. So give me some time on that. We do have it though; it is in hand.
I want you to start with operations, since we'll have a detailed conversation on operations, and then have you present it to the board. So if you're not ready in October or November.
It's about this thing, so.
I can have other things to do.
Yeah, I wish. I spent half my damn conference call yesterday. So CDI, that's probably a conversation that we need to talk about. I'm not sure if that is going to come to fruition. So I'm going to ask that maybe you and I have that conversation with Bill, and if they decide that they want to bow out, potentially looking at trying to find another partner to go in, because I still believe I think it's a good project. And so I would like to see something done there. Whether we can get anybody else, get anybody else interested in it, I don't know, but I think it's worth trying.
Why don't you and I have a conversation with Bill, and then if we get to having to make that decision, we might have a small development committee meeting.
Yeah, we've got quite a few things for development.
Well, then why don't we go ahead and try and schedule a development committee meeting for next month?
Yep.
Okay.
Is that something you would consider if you would bid? Would you bid that? If they walked out?
If they bowed out, well,
There's really nothing to do, because they control the land.
yeah.
So,
They had an option to purchase it, and I think that expired, so I think the land's probably out. I mean,
You'd kind of just be shopping it for somebody to come in and take over their place, and then we'd have to probably go through an approval process again with a substitute contractor, or substitute developer.
Did we get a tax credit allocation on that one?
no, they were going to try to do a 4% deal, but they don't do that. So the numbers to work out for real estate taxes.
And mean, one benefit is there's been enough work put into it, there's a framework there for someone to step into.
Right.
If someone is willing to step into that particular framework. The problem is we're having trouble making it work between the taxes and the construction costs.
Yeah.
So although the model is basically set, ready to go, the question would be, can we find anyone who actually really can do it?
Yeah.
Let's talk to Bill, and then we'll,
Yeah.
let's put together a development committee.
Okay. And that's all I got.
Okay, thank you, Ryan. Procurement and contracting, morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. You've got my report. On the bill for any questions you might have, I'd just like to point out that we continue to improve on our support of small and disadvantaged businesses. We're up to 22% for the year. Last month was greater than 38%.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions or comments on procurement? If not, we'll move on to HR. Is that Cliff?
Yeah, we only had one voluntary, only one person quit, so we got some positions out, and we're reviewing applications for property management, and we're interviewing on the accountant side, so very little activity on the HR front. As it pertains to hiring and.
Except for finding some help for Michael. Okay, any questions on human resources? Now we'll move on to Family Community Services. Good morning, Sal.
Good morning, Commissioner. You do have my report in front of you. I'll be glad to answer any question. Just a couple of highlights again. With Charles Drew, last month, they provided 137 services for all of our people, which is really low. So, and that's another point which is actually I would say help trying to get that number. So, and then also, Mr. Scott and I are going to be out this evening at UNO to receive a $10,000 grant from the African American Unit Fund. They actually gave us a $10,000 for our sports program that we applied for. And also, we're going to be working with Travis Salas from Omaha Public School to do some job placement engagement here with the Housing Authority. They kind of shortage on that transportation department. They pay $18 an hour, which I didn't know that. So we're going to work with them to see if we can identify a few of our residents who may be qualified for that job.
Talk about the grant we got yesterday.
The REACH grant is going to be a press conference tomorrow.
Tomorrow at 10 o'clock at the Harper Center.
This is a partnership through Crate, and I think we budget in from the Housing Authority about $48,000 to actually help to actually do some help engagement in our towers. We actually going to be having 2 staff that are going to be designated, and also 4 residents who we actually going to be giving them some stipends to actually help with this program. So the press conference is tomorrow. They'll send the email out so we be able to see that. The summer programs we got a report from West Side. They actually said we served over 21,000 lunches and snacks at 2 sites, which are actually larger than everybody else in the state. So which is pretty good. With the Operation Kirk Pier went real well. We did our last project here after this week outside. We saw the parking lot where we had our residents strike the parking lot. So that's about it. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Cliff, will you make sure to send a copy of the press release to the full board? Okay, thank you. Is there anything else you want to say about that grant?
No, we're going to be partnering with Creighton quite a bit. We're probably going to bring to the board a pilot program on access to community health. And we're also going to partner with Creighton and Charles Drew and the health department on an oral health grant that we're going to apply for. The partnership with Creighton is real big. A couple things, and I don't want to get on a soapbox, but talked about health. You know, our partnership with OPS continues to be really, really strong. We partner with other social service organizations on nutrition, with the summer food program. You know, some of our board members talking about outcomes and being able to quantify our reach. It's important that we develop partnerships with organizations that have a track record of really making a difference, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to focus on the housing and partner with organizations to really provide access for our residents, for them to better their life from an educational perspective, social service component with the counseling, the nutritional component, and certainly with our physical activity with our sports program. Last thing I have, First National just gave us $40,000 for 16th Street, the 16th Street corridor. I want to thank Nicole and George and Ryan for putting that grant application together. So hopefully we can make some improvements to 16th Street on that.
I know the city struggled with having to finish that project, but $40,000 isn't a huge amount of money, but it is actually, I think, much appreciated by the mayor's office that we were able to get that. So it's at least because we will do our part. So, but no, we thank First National, and I thank you to Nicole for putting that together. And it allows us to at least have a meaningful participation from our side into that project.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
again, just first of all, a comment or a suggestion. I know that through the Turnback Tax Committee, there, we provide dollars for nonprofits.
Yeah.
If we have a nonprofit mechanism, I would think, my suggestion would be to go on the website, city website, or the county website, and apply for some of those dollars. We can give up to $10,000.
So we actually saw the announcement came out about a week and a half ago.
But if we got a nonprofit area where we might be able to make application.
Yeah, the foundation will be.
Yeah, with the foundation, I'm thinking that we might be able to use some of that, use some of that turnback tax dollars for a variety of things, because you can couch it in a number of ways to address, if you want, youth violence or, some youth program that has some after school program. So I would encourage you to do that. And secondly, if you need me to help push Charles Drew, because those numbers have got to come out. I mean, they really do. I think it's just a matter of people not knowing and them not getting the word out. So if I could be helpful in any way, please let me know. And I'll be talking to Mr. McMorris again about, we got to get more aggressive in this now.
The foundation's a good vehicle for the Turnback Tax Program.
Yeah.
And that's also how we fund a lot of our youth programs. So
but just a reminder that's there, and the application have to be in by October. Yeah, by the end of October, because we start addressing them. We start looking at the grant applications November 3rd, and we award in December. So please make sure you look at that, because I think there are a couple of ways where the foundation can get resources from the Turnback Tax Committee.
Sure, I'll talk to Mrs. Scott before.
Okay.
Then the last thing is Cliff and I met with Boy Scout of America. It was Wednesday. No, it was Tuesday. It's really trying to reestablish Boy Scout basketball properties. So hopefully we'll get some more information on that. So.
Thank you, Sal.
Hey, you need to talk about the show. The show.
Oh, there you go.
Cliff and I met with.
Put Sal in the spot like that.
I got to.
You utilizing what Channel 22?
Yeah, we're almost there. We're actually almost there. Mr. Scott and I met with Jeanette and his staff. We actually went to the studio, which is a state-of-the-art studio. We're going to be starting doing a show, but the key thing about this concept, we have to bring our own crew.
Yeah.
So what Mr. Scott decided to do
They've disqualified already.
Greg here from finance also volunteered. So we actually got quite a bit of feedback from staff who actually want to come in and volunteer. And the key thing is we go in and get trained to have a crew. Once we develop our own crew, if another organization wants, they actually can request our crew to come in and actually pay them to do.
Hey, Lynn, I spent a heck of a lot of time making this work, man.
Actually, we're going to, in all seriousness, folks, if you see the studio, this is state of the art.
Yeah.
It really is. So we're going to utilize the studio, and we're going to ask all our board members to participate, to talk about what they do in their respective careers. This goes into the whole branding thing and changing the image of the housing authority. So this is just as important as changing signs and putting up fences and stuff like that, because we can tell our story, talk about the challenges that we have, and talk about some of the good things that we do. So this isn't costing us a dime.
Yeah, it's not.
So this is just free publicity, and we're going to take it. Absolutely. We thank the councilman for getting this done.
Yeah, we got quite a bit of staff that actually.
I took a lot of slings and arrows to get that station in, man. So, let's utilize it to the full.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this could be actually a very useful part of our campaign going forward next year. So I encourage, and I wasn't really kidding when I said require, but I encourage everyone to participate when Mr. Scott requests your presence. Please do. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, anything further for Sal, anyone? All right. Public safety. Morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. You have my report before you. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. I'd like to point out that we've seen an unusual significant drop in the number of reports for the month of August. It's nice to see, but hopefully it continues that trend. And then you'll see next month, I'm sure the number of background checks will significantly increase related to the number of applications that don't concern this process.
Any other comments or questions for Chris? If not, we'll move on to legal. Morning, George.
Good morning, everybody. You got the report before you. Item number 1, I think that is the final nail in the coffin. So I think.
Please, so that she'll stop texting me.
It's done.
Please.
Absent a new filing, which I can't say I can't stop. Everything that's been in the hopper, I think, with this ruling, that's the final nail on that case there, on those minor cases. Item number 3, the new council did file their appearance, and I'll be talking to the new council and figure out kind of what his temperature is for moving that case forward, or how we can move that forward, or whether or not we can resolve it. And I'll talk to Cliff and the chair about how we can resolve that, short of having a full-blown trial. Other than that, you've got the eviction report before you. Take a look at that, and I'll take any questions you have.
So on item 3, if necessary, we'll have an executive session next month.
Yeah. So we'll probably be to decide what we want to do on that case, because we're at the point either it's going to get resolved or we're going to prepare for trial.
So we'll have to have more conversations about that. So just so everyone's clear, Mr. Wayne is no longer counsel.
Mr. Wade has withdrawn at the request of his client, and Mr. Jim Crampton has filed his appearance on that case. So I don't know whether it's going to change the trajectory of litigation or not. Mr. Wade and I were involved in some informal discussions to see whether or not we could resolve it prior to his exiting. So I don't know if his client is still inclined to go down that road or what the flavor is going to do at this point.
I may probably, unless it changes, we'll recommend we have a brief executive session next month to have George update us on the status of that. Yes.
Do you say into number 5 here?
5?
And 9.
Oh, that one? No. That'll never end. And the reason I say that is this. HUD's got the case, and generally HUD has a, by their regulations, they have timelines with their case. should be finished. So I don't know why that initial case is still hanging out there. It's been hanging out there for a couple of years now. You know, they brought in some heavy hitters from HUD, and essentially what this individuals have done was they crashed HUD's computer system here locally because they were
In those emails.
Yeah. They crashed that system to the point where HUD, I think, probably gave them a little more attention than they should have, so they kicked it up to the HUD regional office, somebody in that office to resolve that matter, so it's considered at his desk for some time. In the interim, we've gotten a new line of complaints that we're going to ultimately have to deal with. HUD sent a very strong and stern email to them yesterday in regards to the new questions that basically said, you know what, this is not our ability to deal with, we need to deal with the housing authority on this issue. So I'm hoping maybe with that strong email from HUD that will have them take a second look at it, but if I know this couple, they'll just go above this individual's head and continue to pull somebody up the chain to see whether or not that will ultimately get involved. So,
We think the president's got to get some of this email.
oh yes, the president, no, the White House got information in the first round.
Yeah.
So,
I think the president's going to call it. That's the bonus issue too at some point.
and I'll tell you, like I said, the problem is, I told you in the past, is you have an individual who's fully very, very bright, knows how to use a computer, but has some other issues that need to be dealt with.
That's going to solve your branding issue. You'll have a Secret Service here and.
George, I noticed we've got another couple of high non-payment amounts.
Yeah.
Any background or information on that?
I would actually refer to Susan and Terrence. What are you looking at on the
Irons,
Irons and Anderson, Floyd Anderson,
Annie Watson,
and Watson.
no relation.
On which one? The August?
Yeah,
Yeah, 2,500, 2,200, 19, 1,200. August.
August non-payment case.
August non-payment.
and then I know Jennifer's a good manager. If she needs some help,
Brittany Watson? Well, these are scattered sites, so you got to include damages and court documents too.
No, you just read it.
this is just running the background.
We'll check on it,
Okay.
find out.
Would you send a correspondence to the board and give them some advice as to, or at least background as to where those cases are? 'Cause I see one is also on hold, or was on hold.
Yeah, Irons is on hold. The reason that's on hold is that gentleman came in, and of course, as you can see, the funds are rather large, and he was advising me that he had a disability claim that was in the process, and that he was going to get some disability funds that could help him satisfy his judgment. So what I've asked him to do is go to his counsel, and ask his counsel to send him a letter indicating if and when that disability claim would be resolved, and whether or not there would be sufficient funds to cover what he owes. Counsel sent me a letter and basically said, when that is going to so it takes a long time, so in the interim, we've got no choice, but we have to move forward and have that individual locked up.
Anything else for George? Okay. All right, new business, which is just reminding us, I believe, that our November, December meetings are, I think, moved up a week based on Christmas and Thanksgiving. So just make sure everyone's aware of that.
We need a motion to do it,
Okay.
those are two bylaws.
Fourth 3 months, okay.
Okay, do we need that this month?
This month.
Okay, motion approved.
Second.
We got a motion and a second to approve the change to the November and December meetings. Roll call?
Commissioner Reinberg?
Yes.
Commissioner Bergman?
Yes.
Commissioner Gray?
Yes.
Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner Watson?
Yes.
Chair Taylor?
Yes. No new information. Does anyone else have anything? Any comments, questions, concerns? Thank you all very much for your time. I will entertain a motion to adjourn if someone's got one.
I will make that motion.
Okay.
I will second.
All right. You two have been quite a pair today.
Yes, we have.
Roll call.
Yes.
Commissioner Romano?
Yes.
Commissioner Watson?
Yes.
Commissioner Terry?
Yes.